Daniel's hands trembled as he held the price tag, $247, for a doll. He looked down at his daughter Lily, her 7-year-old eyes sparkling with hope as she clutched the porcelain princess to her chest like it was made of starlight itself. This wasn't just any doll. This was the one from her favorite movie, the one she'd drawn in crayon at least 30 times, the one she whispered about before bed every single night for 3 months. "Daddy, isn't she beautiful?" Lily's voice carried that innocent certainty that children have before the world teaches them about limits. Daniel's throat tightened. He'd worked double shifts all week. He'd skipped meals. He'd counted every penny twice. And still, he was $70 short. The store clerk, a woman in her 30s with perfect makeup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, watched him from behind the counter. He could feel her judgment like weight on his shoulders. "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered, kneeling down to meet Lily's gaze. "This is too expensive for me. But sweetie, we can find something just as special. I promise." "Sir," the clerk's voice cut through the moment like glass. "This isn't a charity shop. If you can't afford it, please don't waste everyone's time." The words hit him like a physical blow. Around them, other shoppers turned to stare. Daniel felt his face burn with shame. But worse than his own humiliation was the confusion blooming in Lily's eyes as she slowly, heartbreakingly, placed the doll back on the shelf. Across the store, hidden behind a display of gift boxes, a woman in an elegant coat stopped breathing. Elena Sterling had seen many things in her 32 years, but she had never seen dignity look quite like this. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love seeing how far stories like this reach across the world. And if you believe that stories about real love and second chances deserve to be told, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Now, let's see how one moment of humiliation became the beginning of something neither of them could have imagined. Daniel Carter had learned to measure his life in small victories. A shift at the warehouse that didn't leave him too exhausted to read Lily a bedtime story. A week where the bills got paid on time. A smile from his daughter that reminded him why he kept going. 3 years ago, when Sarah died, he'd thought the world had ended. In some ways it had, but Lily needed him. And so he'd learned to build a new world from whatever pieces remained. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms in a building where the elevator worked half the time, and the heating never quite reached the corners of rooms. But it was theirs. Lily's room had walls covered in her drawings, princesses and castles and stars that glowed in the dark. Daniel's room was simpler. A bed, a dresser, and a photograph on the nightstand. Sarah on their wedding day, laughing at something he'd said, her eyes full of light. He tried not to look at it too often. It hurt too much, but he also couldn't put it away. Lily needed to remember her mother's face. Money was always tight. Daniel worked at a logistics company during the day, loading and unloading trucks until his back screamed. 3 nights a week, he drove for a rideshare service, navigating the city streets until past midnight. He'd canceled his own birthday last year to afford Lily's school supplies. He wore the same 3 shirts in rotation. He couldn't remember the last time he'd bought something just because he wanted it. But Lily's 8th birthday was coming, and Daniel had promised himself that this year, just this once, he'd get her something special, something that made her eyes light up the way they used to when Sarah was alive. That's how they ended up at Bellingham's toy Emporium on a Saturday afternoon. The store was beautiful in a way that felt almost hostile. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Every toy sat behind glass like art in a museum. Classical music played softly through hidden speakers. The other customers wore clothes that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly rent. He felt out of place the moment he walked through the door, but Lily's hand in his gave him courage. "Daddy, look." Lily pulled him toward a display in the center of the store. There, spotlit like a treasure, sat the Celestia doll, 18 inches tall with hand-painted features and a gown covered in tiny crystals. It was the character from Lily's favorite animated movie, the brave princess who learned to believe in herself. Lily had watched that movie so many times the DVD skipped in places. She could recite every line. "She's even more beautiful in real life," Lily breathed, pressing her hands against the glass. Daniel's heart sank as he saw the price card. $247. He'd saved up $170. He'd been so careful. He'd thought it would be enough. "Can I hold her, Daddy?" "Please." The clerk, a woman named Monica according to her name tag, approached with a practiced smile. She was young, impeccably dressed, with the kind of confidence that came from never having to check a price tag before buying something. "The Celestia collection is very exclusive," Monica said, her tone suggesting she'd already sized them up and found them wanting. "Only 50 were made for the North American market. My daughter really loves this character," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Could I see it, please?" Monica hesitated, her eyes flicking from Daniel's worn jacket to Lily's carefully mended dress. But she unlocked the case and carefully lifted the doll. Lily's entire face transformed. She held the doll like it was made of spun glass and dreams, her small fingers gentle on the crystalline gown. "Hello, Princess Celestia," she whispered. "I've wanted to meet you for so long." Daniel felt something break in his chest. This was what childhood should look like. Wonder, magic, the belief that anything was possible. "We'll take it," he said before he could stop himself. Monica's eyebrows rose. "That'll be $247 plus tax. Total comes to $268.50. Daniel pulled out his wallet. The bills inside suddenly looked pitiful. He counted them twice, hoping that somehow the numbers would change. $170. Exactly what he'd known was there. He couldn't get the words out. Around them he could feel other shoppers starting to notice, starting to watch. "Is there a problem?" Monica's voice had gone cold. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quietly. "I thought I had enough. I've been saving, but—" He looked down at Lily, who was still cradling the doll, oblivious to the disaster unfolding. "Could I maybe put down a deposit? Come back next week with the rest?" Monica's expression hardened. "Sir, we don't do layaway. And frankly, the Celestia line is in high demand. I have 3 other customers interested in this particular piece. Please." Daniel hated the desperation in his own voice. "It's for her birthday. She's been wanting this for months." "I understand that, but this isn't a charity shop." Monica's voice carried across the store now, loud enough that nearby conversations stopped. "If you can't afford it, perhaps you should look at our more budget-friendly options. We have some very nice toys in the clearance section." The words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel felt every eye in the store turn toward them. His face burned. His hands shook. But worse than his own humiliation was the moment when Lily finally looked up from the doll and saw her father's face. "Daddy?" Her voice was so small. "Are we not getting Celestia?" Daniel knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. His knees hit the polished marble floor. "Sweetie, I'm so sorry. This one is too expensive for me right now, but I promise we'll find something just as special, something even better." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. At 7 years old, she'd already learned not to ask for too much. She carefully, so carefully, placed the doll back in Monica's outstretched hands. "It's okay, Daddy," Lily whispered. "I don't need it. We can just go home." Those words destroyed him more than any of Monica's contempt could have. Daniel stood, taking Lily's hand. "Come on, sweetheart, let's get some ice cream instead." As they turned to leave, Monica called after them. "Next time, maybe check the prices before you let your child get attached to something you can't afford. It's cruel, really." Daniel stopped. Every muscle in his body wanted to turn around, to say something, to defend himself. But what could he say? She was right. He couldn't afford it. He was a failure. He couldn't give his daughter the one thing she wanted. So he kept walking, Lily's small hand in his, her silence more devastating than tears would have been. Behind them, hidden near the luxury gift-wrapping station, Elena Sterling stood frozen. She'd come to Bellingham's to buy a present for her goddaughter, a child she barely knew, daughter of a business associate she barely liked. It was obligation, not love. She'd been about to leave when she'd heard the commotion. Now, watching the father and daughter walk away, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Not pity, something deeper. Recognition. She knew what it felt like to be measured and found wanting. Her parents had been doing it to her for 32 years, but they measured her by different metrics. Not money, she had plenty of that. They measured her by compliance, by usefulness, by how well she played the part of the perfect Sterling heir. But this man, this father, he'd knelt on the ground in a store full of people who thought they were better than him, and he'd spoken to his daughter with a gentleness that Elena's own parents had never shown her, not once in 3 decades. "Excuse me." Elena found herself moving toward the display before she'd consciously decided to. "I'd like to purchase the Celestia doll." Monica's demeanor changed instantly. Elena was wearing a coat that cost more than some people's cars. Her handbag was Hermès. Her shoes were Louboutin. The markers of wealth were written in every detail. "Of course, ma'am, excellent choice. Let me just gift wrap it," Elena interrupted. "Your best wrapping, and include one of your gift cards. Don't write anything on it. Just leave it blank." 20 minutes later, Elena walked out of Bellingham's carrying a silver box tied with white ribbon. Her heart was pounding. This was insane. She didn't know these people. She had no reason to involve herself in their lives. But she couldn't forget the way that little girl had whispered to the doll, or the way that father had knelt on the cold floor, his dignity intact even as the world tried to strip it away. Elena went home to her penthouse apartment. 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the entire city. Every surface was designer. Every object was expensive, and all of it felt completely empty. She set the silver box on her marble kitchen counter and stared at it. What was she doing? She couldn't just track down strangers and give them presents. That was crazy. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Elena, darling, your father and I need to discuss something with you. Come to the house tomorrow at 2. Don't be late. No greeting, no, how are you? Just commands." Elena ended the call without responding. She looked at the silver box again. Maybe she was crazy, but crazy was better than this. This nothing. This expensive, elegant nothing. The next day, Elena did something she'd never done before. She called in a favor from a friend who worked in school administration, found out which elementary school had recently enrolled a 7-year-old girl named Lily Carter, found out that there was a playground nearby where a father and daughter were often seen on Sunday afternoons. And on Sunday, Elena went to the park. She saw them from across the playground. The father pushing his daughter on the swing, both of them laughing. The girl's joy was incandescent. The father's love was written in every careful push, every attentive glance. Elena sat on a bench and watched them for 10 minutes, trying to find the courage to approach. Finally, Lily ran off toward the slide. The father sat down on a nearby bench to catch his breath. Elena stood, her heart hammering, and walked over. "Excuse me," she said. Daniel looked up, startled. He didn't recognize her. She'd been too far away in the store. "I'm sorry to bother you," Elena continued, "but I think this belongs to your daughter." She held out the silver box. Daniel stared at it, confused. "I don't understand. I was at Bellingham's yesterday. I saw what happened." Elena's voice was shaking. "I bought the doll. I wanted your daughter to have it." Daniel's expression cycled through confusion, realization, and then something that looked like pain. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because I don't take charity." His voice was gentle but firm. "I appreciate the gesture, but I can't." Elena sat down on the bench uninvited. "It's not charity, it's a gift. From someone who understands what it's like to want to give someone you love something special. You don't even know us." "No," Elena admitted. "But I saw you with your daughter yesterday. I saw how you spoke to her, how you protected her even when someone was being cruel to you. And I thought," she paused, surprised to find tears in her eyes. "I thought that kind of love deserves to be celebrated." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "Who are you?" "Someone who wishes she'd had a father like you." Before Daniel could respond, Lily came running back. She stopped short when she saw Elena. "Daddy, who's this?" Elena hesitated. "I'm just someone who wanted to meet you. What's your name?" "Lily. Are you a princess?" "You look like a princess." Elena laughed, and it came out half sob. "No, sweetheart, I'm not a princess, but you're pretty like one." Daniel stood. "Lily, say goodbye to the nice lady. We should go." "Wait." Elena stood too, still holding the silver box. "Please let her open it. You don't have to keep it if you don't want to, but let her see it just once." Daniel looked at his daughter's curious face, then back at Elena. Finally, he nodded. Elena knelt down and handed the box to Lily. "This is for you. Happy early birthday." Lily's eyes went wide as she opened the box and saw the Celestia doll nestled in tissue paper. Her gasp was audible. "Princess Celestia," she breathed. "Daddy, look." She came back. Daniel's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Lily, we can't." "Daddy, look at her dress. Look at how she sparkles." "Oh, thank you, thank you." Lily threw her arms around Elena's neck, and Elena, who'd been hugged maybe 3 times by her own parents in 32 years, broke down completely. She wrapped her arms around this small girl who smelled like playground mulch and strawberry shampoo, and she cried like something inside her had finally cracked open. Daniel watched this strange, elegant woman sob on a park bench, while his daughter patted her shoulder and said, "It's okay. Don't be sad. Look, Celestia's smiling at you." When Elena finally composed herself, she wiped her eyes and looked at Daniel. "I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't usually." "It's okay." Daniel's voice was kind. "Would you like to sit with us for a bit? Lily usually feeds the ducks around this time." Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. They spent an hour at the park. Lily chattered about school and her friends and how Princess Celestia taught people to be brave. Elena listened like every word was precious. Daniel watched this stranger interact with his daughter and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not attraction exactly, something more unsettling. Recognition, like he was seeing someone who understood loneliness the way he did. When the sun started setting, Daniel said they had to go home. "Thank you," he told Elena, "for the gift and for today. You made her very happy." "She made me happy too," Elena said quietly. As they parted ways, Elena almost let them walk away. Almost. But then she heard herself say, "Wait." Daniel turned back. Elena took a breath. "I need to ask you something. Something that's going to sound completely insane. Okay. Would you marry me?" The world seemed to stop. Daniel stared at her. "What?" Elena pushed forward before she could lose her nerve. "Not for real, not romantically. A business arrangement. 6 months. I need to be married, or my parents will cut me off from my inheritance and destroy my career. You need financial stability for your daughter. We could help each other. You're serious. Completely serious. I'll pay off any debts you have. I'll set up a college fund for Lily. I'll make sure you never have to count pennies in a toy store again. All you have to do is pretend to be my husband for 6 months." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Lady, I don't even know your name." "Elena. Elena Sterling." Recognition flickered in his eyes. The Sterling name was famous in the city. Old money, corporate empire, power. "This is insane," Daniel said. "I know. I have a daughter. I can't bring someone into her life who's just going to disappear in 6 months. I wouldn't disappear. We'd transition. Stay friends. I'd still be in her life. You don't know that." "No," Elena admitted. "I don't. But I do know that I sat with your daughter for an hour today, and it was the best hour I've had in years. And I know that you're a good father who deserves better than working himself to death just to survive. And I know that this is crazy, but sometimes crazy is better than slow suffocation." Daniel looked at Lily, who was now making the Celestia doll dance on the park bench. "I need to think about it," he finally said. "Of course. Here." Elena handed him a business card with a phone number handwritten on the back. "Call me when you've decided." She walked away before he could respond, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might pass out. 3 days later, at 11 at night, Daniel called. "Okay," he said without preamble. 6 months, but we do this my way. No lies to Lily about what this is. No pretending it's something it's not. And the second I think it's hurting her, we're done. Deal?" Elena closed her eyes. "Deal. When do we start? How about tomorrow? We should probably get to know each other if we're going to convince anyone we're in love." Daniel laughed, short and bitter. "I'm not sure I remember what that looks like anymore." "Me neither," Elena admitted. Neither of them could have known, in that moment, just how wrong they both were. The first time Elena walked into Daniel's apartment, she tried very hard not to let her face show what she was thinking. It wasn't disgust. Elena had seen poverty before, from a comfortable distance, through car windows, and in carefully curated charity galas. This wasn't poverty. This was working-class struggle, the kind where every object in the home had been chosen for function over form, where the furniture was second-hand but clean, where love had tried its best to make up for lack of money. "It's not much," Daniel said, and she could hear the defensiveness in his voice. "It's a home," Elena replied quietly. "That's more than I have." Daniel looked at her, surprised, but didn't ask what she meant. Lily came running from her bedroom, Princess Celestia clutched in one hand. "Elena, you're here. Daddy said you might come live with us for a while. Is that true?" Elena knelt down, her designer dress pooling on the worn carpet. "Would that be okay with you?" "Yes, you can sleep in Daddy's room. He has a big bed. I'll show you." Lily grabbed Elena's hand and pulled. Daniel cleared his throat. Actually, Lily, Elena will take your room. You and I can share mine. But no arguments. Elena is our guest. Elena started to protest, but something in Daniel's expression stopped her. This was about pride, about not feeling like a charity case in his own home. She understood that. Thank you, she said simply. That night, lying in Lily's small bed surrounded by drawings of princesses and stars, Elena stared at the ceiling and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. The mattress was thin. She could hear traffic from the street. The heating clanked and rattled. And yet, for the first time in months, she didn't feel the crushing weight of her empty penthouse pressing down on her chest. In the other room, Daniel lay on his own bed while Lily slept in the sleeping bag beside him. He stared at the same ceiling and thought about the stranger in his daughter's room. Elena Sterling, heiress, businesswoman, someone so far outside his world she might as well be from another planet. And yet she'd cried when Lily hugged her. That had been real. That had been raw. Maybe this wouldn't be a complete disaster. The next morning, Elena woke to the smell of burnt toast and the sound of Lily giggling. She emerged from the bedroom to find Daniel attempting to make breakfast, while Lily provided extremely unhelpful commentary. Daddy burns everything, Lily announced cheerfully. Mommy used to say he could burn water. Daniel's expression flickered. Yeah, well, your mom was right about that. Elena stepped forward. May I? For a moment, she thought Daniel might refuse. But then he stepped aside, and Elena took over at the stove. She wasn't a great cook. She'd had staff for that most of her life, but she was better than Daniel. Within 15 minutes, she'd salvaged the eggs and produced edible toast. They ate together at the small kitchen table, Lily chattering about school while Daniel and Elena navigated the awkward choreography of strangers trying to share space. So, Daniel said finally, we should probably talk about the logistics of this arrangement. Lily looked up. What's logistics? Grown-up stuff, Daniel said. Finish your eggs. Elena waited until Lily went to brush her teeth, then leaned forward. My parents want to meet you. Next Sunday, dinner at their house. Daniel's face paled slightly. Already? They're suspicious. I told them I'd been seeing someone in secret for months. They want to verify that you're suitable. I'm not. You're perfect, Elena said firmly. You're genuine. You're kind. You're nothing like the men they usually try to set me up with. That's exactly why this will work. What are these men like? Elena's laugh was sharp. Carbon copies of my father, corporate sharks. Men who see marriage as a merger and women as assets. Men who've never pushed their daughter on a swing or burnt toast because they were too tired from working 2 jobs. Daniel was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. For what? That you've been around people like that. Something in Elena's chest loosened. I'm sorry you've had to work yourself to exhaustion just to keep your daughter fed. They looked at each other across the tiny kitchen table, and for a moment, the vast distance between their worlds seemed a little smaller. The days began to blur together in a strange new rhythm. Elena worked from Daniel's apartment, taking video calls in Lily's bedroom while Daniel was at work. She'd never realized how quiet her penthouse had been until she experienced the constant background noise of life here. Neighbors arguing upstairs, children playing in the hallway, the rumble of the old radiator. She found she didn't mind it. Daniel came home exhausted every evening, but he always had energy for Lily. Elena watched him help with homework, make dinner, give baths, read bedtime stories. She watched him be present in a way her own father never had, and slowly, without meaning to, she started joining in. It started small. She helped Lily with a school project about ocean animals. Then she braided Lily's hair one morning when Daniel was running late. Then she started cooking dinner so it would be ready when Daniel got home. You don't have to do this, Daniel said one evening, finding her at the stove. I know, Elena replied, but you're exhausted and I'm here anyway. Let me help. Daniel looked like he wanted to argue, but his shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. They fell into a routine. Elena and Lily in the mornings before school, Daniel and Lily in the evenings after work. And at night, when Lily was asleep, Daniel and Elena would sit at the kitchen table and talk. She learned about his life before Sarah died, how they'd met in college, 2 broke students sharing textbooks and dreams, how they'd scraped together enough for a tiny wedding, how Sarah had been funny and fierce and had made Daniel believe he could be more than his circumstances. He learned about Elena's gilded cage, private schools where she'd had tutors but not friends, parents who measured her worth in stock prices and social connections. A life that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow from within. "Have you ever been in love?" Daniel asked one night, 3 weeks into their arrangement. Elena considered lying. "Once, I thought I was. He was someone my parents approved of. We dated for 2 years. When I told him I wanted to work in non-profit rather than take over the family business, he called me naive and broke up with me via text. Turned out he was more interested in the Sterling name than in me. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me something important. People in my world don't fall in love. They make strategic alliances. Is that what we're doing, making a strategic alliance?" Elena met his eyes. "I don't know what we're doing anymore." The moment hung between them, electric and dangerous. Then Lily called out from the bedroom, having woken from a bad dream, and the spell broke. But something had shifted. The breaking point came 4 weeks in, on a Tuesday night. Lily had asked Elena to help her with a school assignment. "We have to draw our family," she'd explained. "Can you help me?" Elena had expected to feel uncomfortable. Instead, she'd sat on the floor with Lily, surrounded by crayons and colored pencils, and watched the little girl work. Lily drew 3 figures, a man, a woman, and a child holding hands. Above them, she drew a star. "That's Mommy," Lily explained, pointing to the star. "She watches over us from heaven. Daddy says she can always see us." "That's beautiful," Elena whispered. Lily kept drawing. She added a sun, some flowers, a house that looked nothing like the apartment. When she finished, she held it up proudly. "That's Daddy, and that's me, and that's you, Elena." Elena's breath caught. "Lily, sweetheart, your assignment was to draw your family. I'm not, but you are," Lily said simply. "You live with us. You make breakfast. You help me with homework. Your family." Elena looked at the drawing, at the 3 stick figures holding hands, at the star watching over them, and something inside her cracked wide open. "Lily," she managed, "can I ask you something?" "Uh-huh. Do you miss your mommy?" Lily nodded seriously. "Every day. But Daddy says that's okay. He says Mommy would want us to keep being happy. And I think Mommy would like you, because you make Daddy smile sometimes. He doesn't smile as much since Mommy went to heaven." Elena pulled Lily into a hug and held on tight, this brave little girl who'd lost so much, and still had room in her heart to make space for a stranger. That night, after Lily went to bed, Elena showed Daniel the drawing. He stared at it for a long time. "She can't get attached to you," he said finally. "This ends in 2 months. She'll be devastated." "I know. So why did you let her include you in the drawing?" "Because she asked me to. Because I didn't want to hurt her by saying no. Because..." Elena's voice broke. "Because for a few hours I let myself pretend it was real." Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and Elena saw something in his eyes that terrified her. Not pity, understanding, want. "We can't," he said. "I know. This is a business arrangement. I know. In 2 months you go back to your world and I stay in mine. I know." But neither of them moved. Neither of them looked away. "Daniel," Elena whispered, "I need to tell you something." "Don't." "I need to tell you that every morning when I wake up in your daughter's bed, surrounded by her drawings, I feel more at home than I've ever felt in my penthouse. I need to tell you that watching you be a father makes me believe that good people still exist. I need to tell you..." Daniel kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and frightened and full of 3 weeks of fighting against something that had been inevitable from the moment she'd handed Lily that silver box in the park. When they broke apart, both of them were shaking. "This is a mistake," Daniel breathed. "I know. We have rules, no feelings, no complications. I know. So why does this feel like the first real thing I've felt in 3 years?" Elena didn't have an answer. She just kissed him again. They didn't sleep together that night. Both of them knew that would be crossing a line they couldn't uncross. Instead, they sat on the couch until dawn, Elena's head on Daniel's shoulder, his arm around her waist, both of them terrified and exhilarated and completely lost. When morning came, they pulled apart reluctantly. Lily would be up soon. They had to pretend everything was normal, but everything had changed. The weeks that followed were a study in restraint. Daniel and Elena moved around each other carefully, hyper-aware of every accidental touch, every shared glance. They didn't kiss again. They barely let themselves be alone together, but the tension was always there, humming beneath the surface. Lily noticed. "Why are you and Daddy acting weird?" she asked Elena one afternoon. "We're not acting weird," Elena lied. "Yes, you are. You keep looking at each other and then looking away really fast. Like you're playing a game, but I don't know the rules." Elena had no idea how to respond to that. Meanwhile, the deadline with Elena's parents was approaching. Lily's 8th birthday was in 2 weeks, and Elena had promised Daniel she'd organize something special. She'd also promised her parents she'd bring Daniel to their monthly family dinner. "It's going to be awful," she warned him. "My father will interrogate you. My mother will judge everything from your clothes to your posture. They'll try to find reasons you're not good enough." "So, a normal Tuesday for me," Daniel said dryly, but Elena could see the tension in his shoulders. "You don't have to do this. We can call it off. I'll figure something else out." "No," Daniel's voice was firm. "A deal's a deal. Besides, I want to meet the people who made you think love was supposed to be strategic." The dinner was exactly as awful as Elena had predicted. Charles Sterling sized Daniel up like he was evaluating livestock. Victoria Sterling smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. Every question was a trap. Every comment was a test. "So, Daniel," Charles said over the first course, "Elena tells us you work in logistics. What company?" "I work for Morrison Freight," Daniel said evenly. "Loading docks, mostly." Victoria's smile tightened. "How industrious. And you have a daughter?" Charles continued. "From a previous marriage?" "My wife died 3 years ago." A pause. Even Charles had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable. "I'm sorry for your loss. It must be difficult raising a child alone." "It's the greatest privilege of my life," Daniel said quietly. Elena watched her father process this, trying to find the angle, the weakness. He wouldn't understand that Daniel meant it literally. That Lily was the only thing that had kept Daniel tethered to the world after Sarah died. The dinner dragged on. Course after course of expensive food that tasted like obligation. Finally, over dessert, Victoria leaned forward. "Elena, darling, have you thought about the wedding? We should start planning. Something appropriate for the Sterling name. The club, perhaps. Or we could rent out the botanical gardens." Elena felt Daniel tense beside her. They hadn't discussed a wedding because they weren't really getting married. But her parents didn't know that. "Actually," Elena heard herself say, "we're thinking of something small, just immediate family." Victoria's expression froze. "Small? Intimate," Elena corrected. "Daniel and I don't need a big production. We just want to celebrate with the people who matter." Charles set down his fork. "Elena, Sterling wedding is not a private affair. It's a statement. You know that. Maybe I'm tired of making statements." The table went silent. Elena had never contradicted her parents so directly. Not in 32 years. Daniel reached under the table and took her hand. His palm was calloused from work, warm and solid. "Real. We should go," he said quietly. "Thank you for dinner." They left before her parents could respond. In the car, Elena started laughing, then crying, then laughing again. "I just told my parents no," she gasped. "I don't think I've ever done that before." "How does it feel?" Daniel asked. "Terrifying, amazing, like jumping off a cliff." Daniel glanced at her. "You know they're going to retaliate, right?" "I know. And you did it anyway." "I did it because you were holding my hand," Elena said simply. "I did it because for the first time in my life I had someone next to me who wasn't there for the Sterling name. You were just there. For me." Daniel pulled the car over. They were in a parking lot, streetlights casting orange shadows across his face. "Elena," he said, "we need to talk about what's happening here. I know. This was supposed to be business. I know. But I can't stop thinking about you. And it's not because of your money. It's not because of what you can do for Lily. It's because you're—" He struggled for words. "You're real. You're complicated and sad and brave. And every time you smile at my daughter, I feel like I can breathe again for the first time since Sarah died." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, I'm falling in love with you. And I'm terrified because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be part of a real family. I don't know how to be someone's partner. All I know is that when I wake up in your apartment, I feel like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be." "I'm falling in love with you too," Daniel whispered. and I don't know what to do about it." They sat in that parking lot for over an hour, holding hands, trying to figure out how their pretend relationship had become the most real thing in either of their lives. Finally, Daniel drove them home. Home. When had Elena started thinking of that tiny apartment as home? They walked in to find Lily fast asleep on the couch, a neighbor watching her. After the neighbor left, Daniel carried Lily to bed while Elena cleaned up. When he emerged, Elena was standing in the kitchen, still in her dress from dinner, looking lost. "What are we going to do?" she asked. "I don't know," Daniel admitted, "but I know I don't want to lose this, whatever this is." 2 more weeks, Elena said. Then Lily's birthday. Then we tell your parents we're married. Then we figure out the rest. What if there is no rest? What if this all falls apart? Elena crossed the room and took his face in her hands. Then we'll fall apart together. This time when they kissed, it wasn't desperate. It was a promise. Neither of them saw the storm coming. Lily's birthday arrived faster than either of them expected. Elena had spent weeks planning, determined to give the little girl a party she'd remember. Nothing ostentatious. That wasn't what Lily needed. Something magical. She transformed the building's small courtyard with fairy lights and paper lanterns. She hired a face painter and a balloon artist. She invited Lily's entire class. She baked a cake from scratch, getting flour everywhere in the process, and didn't even care when it came out lopsided. Daniel watched her work with wonder. "You didn't have to do all this." "I wanted to," Elena said simply. "She deserves magic." The party was perfect. Lily wore a princess dress that Elena had secretly bought. Her classmates ran wild in the courtyard. Parents stood in small groups, drinking lemonade, watching their children play. And in the middle of it all, Lily pulled Elena and Daniel together. "I want you to dance," she announced. "Sweetie, this is your party," Daniel started. "Please? Mommy and Daddy always danced at parties. Just one dance?" Elena's throat tightened. She could see the pain in Daniel's face, the way this simple request was pulling at old wounds. But she could also see Lily's hopeful expression. "Okay," Elena said softly. "One dance." Someone had brought a portable speaker. Elena found a slow song on her phone. And there, in a courtyard strung with fairy lights surrounded by children and parents and neighbors, Daniel took Elena in his arms. They swayed together, barely moving, hyper-aware of the audience. But then Daniel's hand tightened on her waist, and Elena rested her head against his chest, and suddenly everyone else faded away. "This feels too real," Elena whispered, echoing words from weeks ago. "Maybe it should be," Daniel replied. They turned slowly beneath the lights. Elena could hear Daniel's heartbeat, could feel the tension in his shoulders starting to ease, could let herself believe just for this moment that this was her life, that this man was hers, that this brave, beautiful little girl was theirs. The song ended. The spell broke. Lily cheered and ran off to play with her friends, but Daniel and Elena stayed there, holding each other, neither wanting to let go. "I love you," Daniel said. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe the first day in the park, maybe tonight, maybe every day in between, but I love you." "I love you too," Elena whispered. "And I'm so scared." "Me too." They kissed there in the courtyard, in front of everyone, and didn't care who saw. What they didn't see was the man in the expensive suit standing at the courtyard entrance, taking pictures with his phone. The investigator her parents had hired had been following Elena for 3 weeks, and now he finally had everything he needed. The storm was about to break. They had 3 perfect days after the party, 3 days where Daniel and Elena stopped pretending, 3 days where they kissed in the kitchen while making coffee, held hands while watching Lily play, talked about a future that felt impossibly real. On the 4th day, Victoria and Charles Sterling arrived. Daniel was at work. Elena had taken the day off to help Lily with a school project. They were sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by construction paper and glue, when someone knocked on the door. Elena's blood went cold the moment she opened it. Her parents stood in the hallway looking completely out of place in this working-class building. Victoria wore a suit that probably cost more than 3 months of Daniel's rent. Charles had 2 men in expensive clothes flanking him. Lawyers, Elena realized immediately. "Mother, father, what are you doing here? Aren't you going to invite us in?" Victoria's voice was ice. Elena stepped aside because she had no choice. Her parents swept into the apartment, their eyes cataloging every worn surface, every second-hand piece of furniture. Behind them, The lawyers followed like predators. Lily looked up from her project, confused. Elena. Who are? Lily, sweetie, go to your room for a minute, okay? Elena kept her voice calm despite the panic rising in her chest. But we're not done. Please, Lily, just for a few minutes. Something in Elena's tone must have frightened her, because Lily gathered up Princess Celestia and disappeared into the bedroom, casting worried glances over her shoulder. The moment the door closed, Charles spoke. Sit down, Elena. We need to talk. I'd rather stand. That wasn't a request. Elena had spent 32 years obeying that tone. Her body moved before her mind could stop it, sinking onto the couch. Her parents remained standing, a power play she recognized all too well. Victoria pulled out her phone and began swiping through photos. We've been having you followed, darling. For your own protection, of course. Elena's stomach dropped. You what? Did you really think we'd just accept this ridiculous engagement at face value? Charles moved closer, looming. A single father who works at loading docks? A man with no education, no prospects, no family name? You expect us to believe you fell in love with someone so far beneath you? He's not beneath me. Then explain these. Victoria thrust the phone in Elena's face. The photos were damning. Elena and Daniel at the park. That first day with the silver box. Elena cooking in Daniel's kitchen. Elena and Lily doing homework together. And then the most recent ones. From the birthday party. Elena and Daniel dancing. Elena and Daniel kissing. But there were other photos too. Older ones. The investigator had been thorough. Pictures of Daniel at the toy store being humiliated by the clerk. Pictures of Elena buying the Celestia doll. Time-stamped photos proving that Elena and Daniel hadn't been dating for months like she'd claimed. They'd met only 6 weeks ago. It's a scam, Victoria said flatly. This nobody saw an opportunity to trap a Sterling heiress and you fell for it like a naive child. That's not what happened. Really? Charles cut her off. Then explain the timeline. Explain why you lied to us about how long you'd known him. Explain why you're living in this hovel, playing house with a man and his daughter. I love him, Elena said, and her voice shook. I love both of them. Victoria laughed, sharp and cruel. Love? You've known him 6 weeks. That's not love, Elena. That's infatuation. Or worse, a midlife crisis. I'm 32, not 50. You're a Sterling, Charles interrupted. And Sterlings don't marry down. They certainly don't play pretend family with other people's children. Now this is what's going to happen. You're going to end this embarrassing charade immediately. You'll come home, resume your position at the company, and we'll find you a suitable match. No. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Victoria's expression hardened. Excuse me? I said no. I'm not leaving. I'm not ending anything. Daniel isn't using me and I'm not confused. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I want to be. Charles's face went red. Then you leave us no choice. Johnson, Reynolds, show her. The lawyers stepped forward. One of them handed Elena a folder. We've prepared a full dossier on Mr. Carter, the lawyer named Johnson said in a bored tone. His financial history, his employment records, his late wife's medical bills, which, I might add, bankrupted him. We've also looked into his childcare arrangements. Did you know he's left his 7-year-old daughter alone several times when he couldn't afford a sitter? Technically, that's child endangerment. Elena's hands shook as she opened the folder. Page after page of Daniel's private life, exposed and weaponized. Bank statements showing how close to the edge he lived. Records of every late payment, every collection notice. And worst of all, a highlighted section noting 3 instances where neighbors had reported hearing Lily crying alone in the apartment. He's a good father, Elena whispered. He's doing the best he can. The best he can isn't good enough, Victoria said coldly. And if you continue this relationship, we'll make sure everyone knows it. We'll make sure Child Protective Services knows it. We'll make sure he loses custody of that little girl. Elena's world tilted. You wouldn't. We absolutely would, Charles confirmed. Or you could walk away right now, come home, and we'll ensure Mr. Carter receives a generous severance payment from our legal team, let's say $50,000, for his troubles. Enough to catch up on his bills and move on with his life. All he has to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement and never contact you again. You're trying to buy him off. We're trying to save you from a predator, Victoria corrected. This man saw a lonely, wealthy woman and exploited her. He's probably been planning this since the moment you walked into that toy store. That's not true. I approached him. I bought the doll. I asked him to. Elena stopped, realizing her mistake too late. Charles's eyes sharpened. You asked him to what, Elena? Elena's mouth went dry. My God, Victoria breathed. This was your idea. You approached him. You're the one who initiated this arrangement. She looked at her daughter with something that might have been pity if it wasn't so cold. What were you thinking? I was thinking I wanted something real, Elena said, and tears started falling. I was thinking I was tired of being treated like a corporate asset instead of a human being. I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, I deserved to be around people who actually cared about me, instead of what I could do for them. And you thought you'd find that with a widower and his damaged child? Victoria's voice dripped with disdain. Don't call her that. Elena stood up, rage overriding fear. Lily isn't damaged. She's amazing. She's braver and kinder than anyone in our family has ever been. And Daniel isn't exploiting me. He's the first person who's ever seen me as just Elena, not Elena Sterling, heiress and pawn. How touching, Charles said flatly. But your feelings are irrelevant. Here are the facts. If you stay with this man, we will destroy him. We will take his daughter. We will make sure he never works in this city again. We have the resources and the connections to make his life a living hell. Is that what you want for someone you claim to love? Elena couldn't breathe. You can't do this. We can and we will, Victoria said, unless you end it, right now. Walk away, come home, and we'll leave him alone. He gets his money. You get your inheritance. The child keeps her father. Everyone wins, except me. You'll survive, Charles said dismissively. You always do. Now are we clear? You have until end of business today to make your decision. After that, we file the first round of complaints with child services. They left without another word, the lawyers following like shadows. The apartment door closed and Elena collapsed on the couch. Behind her, Lily's bedroom door creaked open. Elena? Are those people gone? Elena tried to compose herself, but it was impossible. Yes, sweetie, they're gone. Who were they? Just some people I used to know. Lily came out slowly, clutching Princess Celestia. Were they mean to you? You look sad. I'm okay. The lie tasted bitter. You don't look okay. Lily climbed onto the couch next to her. When I'm sad, Daddy hugs me. Do you need a hug? Elena pulled this brave, intuitive little girl into her arms and held on for dear life. Over Lily's shoulder, she could see the folder her parents had left on the coffee table. All of Daniel's struggles laid bare. All of his sacrifices weaponized against him. If Elena stayed, they'd take Lily away from him. They'd destroy the one thing in the world Daniel lived for. If Elena left, she'd break both their hearts. But Daniel and Lily would be safe. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Daniel came home 3 hours later to find Elena packing. What's going on? He stopped in the doorway of Lily's room, where Elena was carefully folding the clothes she'd brought 6 weeks ago. I have to leave. Elena didn't turn around, couldn't look at him. What? Why? What happened? My parents came by today. They know everything. They know this started as an arrangement. They know we lied about the timeline. So what? We're together now, for real. We'll tell them that. It's not that simple. Elena finally turned, and Daniel's expression crumbled when he saw her face. Elena, what did they do? They gave me an ultimatum. If I stay with you, they'll destroy you. They'll report you to child services. They'll make sure you lose Lily. Daniel went pale. They can't do that. I'm a good father. I've never... It doesn't matter. Elena's voice cracked. They have lawyers. They have money. They have connections. They'll find something or they'll make something up, and by the time you prove them wrong, the damage will be done. Lily will be in foster care. You'll be fighting just to see her. Then we fight them. Together. No. Elena forced the word out. I can't let them hurt you. I can't let them take her away from you. Daniel crossed the room in 3 steps and grabbed her shoulders. So you're just going to leave? You're going to walk away like none of this meant anything? It meant everything, Elena sobbed. That's why I have to go. Because I love you. Because I love Lily. Because I can't stand by and watch my parents destroy your life. They're bluffing. They're not. You didn't see them, Daniel. You didn't hear them. They will do exactly what they threatened. And I can't. I can't be the reason you lose your daughter. You won't be. We'll get our own lawyers, With what money? Elena's voice rose. Do you know how much legal battles cost? Do you know how long these things can drag on? Even if you win eventually, what happens to Lily in the meantime? She gets bounced around foster homes while you fight? She loses you for months, maybe years? Daniel's hands dropped. So that's it. You're giving up. I'm protecting you. By breaking my daughter's heart, by breaking mine. His voice was ragged. 6 weeks ago, you stood in a park and asked me to pretend to love you. And I did. I pretended so well that I forgot it wasn't real. But Elena, somewhere along the way, it became real. This became my life. You became... He couldn't finish. I know. Elena was crying so hard she could barely see. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But this is the only way to keep you safe. I don't want to be safe. I want you. You can't have both. The bedroom door opened. Lily stood there in her pajamas, clutching Princess Celestia, her eyes wide and frightened. Elena. Her voice was tiny. Are you leaving? Elena's heart shattered. She knelt down. Sweetie, You promised. Lily's face crumpled. You said you were family. You said you'd stay. I know I did. But sometimes grown-ups have to make really hard choices. I don't care about grown-up choices. Lily was crying now, too. I love you, don't you love me? Of course I love you so much. Then stay. Lily threw herself at Elena, wrapping her arms around Elena's neck. Please stay. We can be a real family. Daddy loves you. I love you. Doesn't that matter? Elena held Lily tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, memorizing the weight of this child in her arms. It matters more than anything in the world. But sometimes love means making sacrifices. Sometimes it means doing the hard thing to protect the people you love. I don't understand. Lily was sobbing. I know you don't, and I'm sorry. Daniel gently pulled Lily away. Come on, sweetheart, let's let Elena finish packing. No, Daddy, don't let her go. Make her stay. I can't, baby, I can't. Elena watched Daniel carry his crying daughter out of the room, and something inside her died. She finished packing mechanically, tears streaming down her face. When she was done, she walked into the living room. Daniel was on the couch, holding Lily, both of them silent and broken. I left my lawyer's information on the table, Elena said quietly. He'll contact you next week. My parents are offering you $50,000. Take it. Pay off your debts. Get ahead. Give Lily the life she deserves. I don't want your money. Please, let me do this one thing. Let me know that I helped, even a little. Daniel looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was unbearable. Is this really what you want? No, but it's what you need. Don't. His voice broke. Don't pretend this is noble. Don't pretend you're some kind of martyr. You're running. You're scared, and you're running just like everyone in your life has always run when things got hard. The words hit like a slap. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Daniel stood, still holding Lily. You came into our lives. You made us believe in something. You made me believe I could have a future beyond just surviving. And now you're leaving because your parents threw some money and threats at you. So yeah, Elena, take your guilt money and your lawyers and your good intentions, and go back to your empty penthouse. But don't pretend this is for us. This is for you, because actually fighting for something real is too scary. Elena stood frozen, his words echoing in her head. He was right. She was scared, terrified. But she was also paralyzed by the image of Lily being taken away by strangers, by Daniel losing the one thing that kept him going. I'm sorry, she whispered. So am I. Elena picked up her bags and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle, wanting to say something that would make this better, but there was nothing to say. No words that could undo this. She walked out and didn't look back. The hallway blurred through her tears. The elevator took forever. By the time she reached her car, Elena was hyperventilating. She sat in the driver's seat, shaking, and pulled out her phone. She should call her parents, tell them it was done, claim her victory. Instead, she called her lawyer. Richard, it's Elena Sterling. I need you to set up a trust fund, anonymous donor, for a little girl named Lily Carter. Full ride to any college she wants. Put in enough to cover everything, tuition, housing, books, whatever she needs, and set up a scholarship fund in her mother's name, Sarah Carter, for single parents trying to get their degrees. Elena, that's very generous, but just do it. Bill my personal account, not my parents'. She hung up and stared at Daniel's building. Through a window on the 3rd floor, she could see a light on. Their apartment. Former apartment. She imagined Daniel putting Lily to bed, trying to explain why Elena had left, trying to tell his daughter that love sometimes meant letting go. But Daniel's own words haunted her. You're running because actually fighting for something real is too scary. Was he right? Was this cowardice disguised as sacrifice? Elena's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her parents would destroy Daniel if she stayed. They'd made that clear. But if she left, Daniel would survive. He'd be hurt, yes, but he'd survive, and Lily would stay with him, and they'd move on. Wouldn't they? Elena started the car and drove to her penthouse. The building's doorman greeted her with professional courtesy, not mentioning that she'd been gone for 6 weeks. The elevator whisked her up to the 43rd floor in silence. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Pristine. Empty. Cold. Elena walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city. From here, everything looked small, manageable, safe. Down there somewhere, in a building she couldn't see from this height, a little girl was crying herself to sleep, and a man was staring at the ceiling, wondering how he'd let himself believe in happy endings twice in one lifetime. Elena pressed her forehead against the glass and made herself a promise. She would stay away. She would let them heal. She would carry this pain alone because it was better than watching them suffer. But even as she made that promise, something whispered that she was making the biggest mistake of her life. 3 days later, Daniel received a call from Child Services. Someone had filed a complaint alleging neglect. Anonymous tip. They needed to do a home inspection within the week. Daniel hung up the phone and looked at the $50,000 check Elena's lawyer had delivered. It sat on the kitchen table, uncashed. He'd been right about Elena's parents. They weren't done. This was just the beginning. And Elena had left him to face it alone. Lily hadn't spoken in 3 days. She clutched Princess Celestia and stared at nothing. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't play. She'd drawn one picture since Elena left. A family of 3 with one figure crossed out in black crayon. Daniel looked at his silent daughter, at the complaint from Child Services, at the check that represented everything he'd worked for and everything he'd lost. Then he picked up the phone and called Elena. It went to voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. He tried 5 more times. Finally, he left a message. Elena, it's Daniel. I know you think you're protecting us, but your parents just filed a complaint with Child Services. They're coming to inspect the apartment. They're looking for reasons to take Lily away from me. And I can't do this alone. I know you're scared. I'm terrified too. But running isn't protecting us. It's just running. If you ever meant anything you said, if any of this was real for you, please, call me back. He hung up and waited. Hours passed. His phone stayed silent. Elena never called back. Elena listened to Daniel's voicemail 17 times before she finally let herself cry. She sat in her pristine penthouse, surrounded by expensive furniture that no one had ever lived in, and played his voice over and over. The desperation, the anger, the hope buried under layers of hurt. If any of this was real for you, please call me back. It had been real, it was still real. That was the problem. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Child Services inspection scheduled for Friday. Once they file their report, the custody hearing will be fast-tracked. You made the right choice, darling. This will all be over soon. Elena stared at those words until they blurred. Over soon. Daniel would lose Lily. Everything Elena had done to protect them had been for nothing. Her parents had lied. Of course they'd lied. The threats weren't conditional on Elena leaving. They were inevitable. Her parents wanted to punish Daniel for daring to exist in Elena's world, and Elena had abandoned him to face it alone. She looked around her apartment. 3,000 square feet of marble and glass and emptiness. This was what she'd chosen. Safety over courage, loneliness over love, the familiar prison over the terrifying freedom of actually fighting for something. Daniel's words came back to her. You're running because actually fighting for something real is too scary. He'd been right. Elena picked up her phone and called her lawyer. Richard, I need you to file something for me, immediately. What kind of filing? I'm renouncing my inheritance, all of it. I want it in writing, notarized, filed with every relevant agency by tomorrow morning. Silence. Then, Elena, are you sure? That's a significant amount of money. I've never been more sure of anything. And Richard, I need you to find me the best family law attorney in the state. Someone who's not afraid to go up against the Sterling family. Money is no object. I still have my trust from my grandmother. I want someone who can fight. May I ask what this is about? It's about doing what I should have done a week ago. Elena hung up and called Daniel. It went to voicemail again. She didn't leave a message. Instead, she texted, "I'm sorry, I'm fixing this, I promise." Then she got in her car and drove. The child services inspection was scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. Daniel had spent 3 sleepless nights preparing. He'd scrubbed every surface in the apartment, made sure all the safety measures were in place. Outlet covers, cabinet locks, working smoke detectors. He'd organized every document they might want to see. Lily's medical records, school attendance, proof of stable employment. But he knew it wouldn't matter. The Sterlings had money and influence. If they wanted to find something wrong, they'd find it. Lily sat on the couch, still clutching Princess Celestia, still silent. She hadn't spoken since Elena left. The school counselor had called twice, concerned. Daniel had assured them she was just processing, but he knew the truth. His daughter was breaking and he didn't know how to fix her. Thursday night, there was a knock on the door. Daniel opened it expecting maybe a neighbor, maybe the building manager. Instead, Elena stood in the hallway. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back. She wore jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. She had dark circles under her eyes, but her expression was determined in a way Daniel had never seen before. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Daniel's first instinct was to slam the door. His second was to pull her into his arms. He did neither. He just stepped aside. Elena walked in slowly, her eyes immediately finding Lily on the couch. "Hi, sweetheart." Lily looked up. For a moment, hope flashed across her face. Then she turned away, hugging the doll tighter. "She hasn't spoken since you left," Daniel said, and he didn't bother to keep the accusation out of his voice. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Elena's voice cracked. "Daniel, I need to tell you something. Your parents, my parents, they lied. The threats weren't conditional on me leaving. They're going through with everything anyway. The child services complaint, the custody hearing, all of it." "I know." Daniel's laugh was bitter. "I figured that out when they called. But thank you for confirming that sacrificing us was pointless. You were right. About everything. I was running. I was scared. I chose the easy way out instead of fighting, and I can't." She took a shaky breath. "I can't take back the last week. I can't undo the hurt I caused, but I can fight now, if you'll let me." "What are you talking about?" Elena pulled papers from her bag. "I renounced my inheritance, all of it. It's done. My parents can't threaten me with disinheritance anymore because there's nothing left to threaten. And I hired a lawyer. The best family law attorney in the state. She's already filed motions to dismiss the child services complaint as harassment. She's requesting an expedited hearing, and she's preparing to countersue my parents for abuse of legal process." Daniel stared at her. "You renounced your inheritance? Every penny. I don't want their money. I don't want anything they can hold over my head. I want—" Her voice broke. "I want to fight for you, for Lily, for us, if there's still an us. Elena, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I broke your trust. But Daniel, I love you. I love Lily. And I'm not running anymore. Whatever comes tomorrow, whatever my parents throw at us, I want to face it with you. If you'll have me." Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but a small voice cut through the air. "You came back." They both turned. Lily was standing now, Princess Celestia dangling from one hand, tears streaming down her face. "You came back," Lily repeated, her voice stronger now. "I thought you were gone forever." Elena dropped to her knees. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I made a terrible mistake. I got scared and I ran away. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again. I promise. You promised before. I know, and I broke that promise. I hurt you, and I hurt your daddy, and I will never forgive myself for that. But Lily, I love you so much. And if you give me another chance, I will spend every day proving that I'm not going anywhere." Lily stood frozen for a long moment. Then she walked forward slowly, like she was afraid Elena might disappear if she moved too fast. When she reached Elena, she dropped Princess Celestia and threw her arms around Elena's neck. Elena held her and sobbed. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Don't leave again, Lily whispered. Please don't leave again. Never, I swear, never. Daniel watched them, his heart breaking and mending at the same time. When Elena finally looked up at him, her face wet with tears, he saw everything he needed to see. She was terrified. She was damaged. She was imperfect. She was real. He crossed the room and pulled them both into his arms. The three of them stood there in the middle of the small apartment, holding on like they were the only solid things in a shifting world. The inspection is tomorrow, Daniel said quietly. Your lawyer can file all the motions she wants, but they're still coming. I know, but we'll face it together, all three of us. And Daniel, I'm not going to let them take her, whatever it takes. I'll spend every cent I have. I'll call in every favor. I'll make sure the entire city knows what my parents are doing. They want to fight, they're going to get one. Daniel pulled back to look at her. You really renounced your inheritance? All of it? Every penny. It was the easiest decision I've ever made. Elena, that was millions. I don't care. She took his face in her hands. I spent 32 years in a gilded cage. I'm not going back. I'd rather have this. She gestured to the tiny apartment. With you than any amount of money without you. Daniel kissed her. It was desperate and tender, and tasted like salt from all their tears. When they broke apart, Lily was smiling for the first time in a week. Does this mean Elena's staying forever? She asked. If she'll have us, Daniel said, looking at Elena. If I'll have you? Elena laughed through her tears. Daniel Carter, I would live in a cardboard box if it meant I got to be with you and Lily. That might actually happen now that you've given up your fortune. Worth it. They spent that night planning. Elena's lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen who had a reputation for destroying opponents in court, called with updates. She'd already filed emergency motions. She'd contacted 3 journalists who covered corruption and abuse of power. She'd prepared a full brief on the Sterling family's history of using legal threats to control Elena. Your parents made a mistake, Patricia said over speakerphone. They thought you'd roll over like you always have. They didn't expect you to fight back, and now they're exposed. We're going to tear apart their complaint piece by piece. By the time I'm done, they'll be the ones answering questions about their parenting, not Mr. Carter. Friday morning arrived too quickly. The child services inspector, a tired-looking woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, showed up exactly at 10 with a clipboard and a skeptical expression. Elena answered the door. Good morning. I'm Elena Sterling. Thank you for coming. Mrs. Rodriguez's eyebrows rose. The Elena Sterling? Of Sterling Enterprises? Former heiress. I renounced my inheritance this week. Now I'm just Elena. May I get you some coffee? The inspection took 2 hours. Mrs. Rodriguez went through every room, asked hundreds of questions, reviewed every document. She interviewed Lily, who spoke clearly and confidently about how happy she was, how much she loved her daddy, how Elena made them breakfast every morning. And you're comfortable with Ms. Sterling living here? Mrs. Rodriguez asked Lily. She's not Ms. Sterling, she's just Elena. And yes, I want her here. She's family. Mrs. Rodriguez made notes. When she was done, she sat with Daniel and Elena at the kitchen table. I'm going to be honest with you, she said. When I got this case, I expected to find problems. The complaint alleged ongoing neglect, unsafe living conditions, a child left alone repeatedly. What I found instead is a child who is healthy, happy, well-adjusted, and clearly loved. This apartment is clean, safe, and appropriate. Mr. Carter, your employment records show consistent work history. Lily's school records are excellent. Her medical records show she's up to date on all vaccinations and checkups. Daniel's hands tightened on Elena's under the table. So I'm going to recommend that this complaint be dismissed as unfounded. Furthermore, I'm going to note in my report that this appears to be a case of harassment rather than legitimate concern. Whoever filed this complaint wasted state resources and my time. Elena felt tears of relief spring to her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just doing my job. But Ms. Sterling, off the record, I've seen what wealthy families can do when they want to control someone. If your parents try this again, document everything. And don't back down. People like you, people willing to walk away from money to protect the people they love, those are the people worth fighting for. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, the 3 of them collapsed on the couch in exhausted relief. Is it over? Lily asked. Not yet, Elena said honestly. My parents won't give up that easily. But we won this round, and we're going to keep winning." She was right. The Sterling family struck back within 48 hours. Charles and Victoria held a press conference. They announced that their daughter had been manipulated by an opportunistic con artist who was using a child to access the Sterling fortune. They presented a timeline of events that painted Daniel as a predator and Elena as a victim. Patricia Chen held her own press conference 6 hours later. She presented Elena's renunciation documents. She presented Daniel's employment records, tax returns, and character references from neighbors, teachers, and employers. She presented Lily's school records and medical records. And then she presented something else, a sworn affidavit from the investigator the Sterlings had hired. The investigator, it turned out, had been appalled by what the Sterlings had asked him to do. He'd kept copies of all communications, and he was willing to testify that Charles and Victoria had explicitly instructed him to find or create evidence of neglect. The press turned on the Sterlings immediately. Within 24 hours, they were facing investigations from the Bar Association, the district attorney, and 2 separate ethics committees. Victoria called Elena's phone 30 times. Elena finally answered on the 31st. "How dare you?" Victoria hissed. "How dare you embarrass this family? I'm not family anymore, Mother, remember? You made that very clear, and I'm not embarrassed. I'm free. You'll come crawling back when your little fantasy falls apart, when that man shows his true colors, when you realize what you've given up. I've given up nothing I want and gained everything I need. Goodbye, Mother." Elena hung up and blocked the number. Charles tried a different approach. He showed up at the apartment with lawyers and a new offer. $10 million if Elena would just disappear from Daniel's life. No strings, no NDA, just go. Daniel answered the door. "She's not interested." "I wasn't talking to you," Charles sneered. "I was talking to my daughter." "She's not your daughter anymore," Daniel said calmly. "You lost that right when you tried to take away my child. Now get out before I call the police. You're making a mistake, both of you. Elena will never be happy in your world. She's been groomed for luxury her entire life. How long before she resents you for what she's lost?" Elena appeared behind Daniel. "I'll never resent him, but I do resent you. For 32 years you treated me like property, like something to be managed and controlled. Daniel treats me like a person, like someone worth loving just for who I am. So take your $10 million and leave. You have no power here anymore." Charles looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and for a moment, Elena saw something like regret in his eyes. But then his expression hardened. "You'll regret this," he said. "The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner." Charles left. He didn't come back. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning, Daniel woke to the smell of pancakes burning. He smiled and got out of bed. In the kitchen, Elena was attempting to rescue breakfast while Lily gave unhelpful advice from her perch on the counter. "You're supposed to flip them before they turn black, Elena." "I know that now. Thank you very much. Maybe we should let Daddy cook." "Your daddy burns toast. I think I can handle pancakes." Daniel leaned against the doorway, just watching. This right here, this was everything. Elena looked up and caught him staring. "What?" "Nothing. Just, I love you, even though I'm ruining breakfast, especially because you're ruining breakfast." Lily groaned. "You guys are so mushy. Can we eat the burned pancakes now? I'm starving." They ate burned pancakes together at the tiny kitchen table, and it was perfect. Later that day, Daniel took Elena's hand. "Come with me. I want to show you something." They left Lily with a neighbor and drove across the city. Daniel pulled up in front of a building Elena had never seen before, a renovated warehouse with a gallery on the first floor and apartments above. "What is this?" Elena asked. "Your future, maybe, if you want it." He led her inside. The gallery space was empty but beautiful, with high ceilings and natural light pouring through industrial windows. Upstairs, there were 3 apartments, all recently renovated. "I've been looking at investments," Daniel explained. "With the settlement money from your parents' legal fees, turns out suing someone for abuse of process is profitable, and some loans. I could buy this building. The gallery space could be rented to artists. The apartments could generate income. It's not much, but it's a start. A real business. Something I could build." Elena looked around, imagining the possibilities. "Daniel, this is amazing. But here's the thing. I can't do it alone. I need a partner, someone with business experience, Someone who knows how to manage finances and negotiate contracts. Someone who believes in second chances and new beginnings. He turned to face her. Elena Sterling, will you be my business partner? Elena laughed, and it turned into a sob. Daniel Carter, I would be honored. There's one more thing. Daniel pulled a small box from his pocket. Elena's breath caught. This isn't how I planned to do this, Daniel said, his voice shaking. I wanted to wait until we had more stability, until I could offer you something better than a second-hand ring and a struggling small business. But Elena, I can't wait anymore. I love you. Lily loves you. Lily loves... You're already part of this family in every way that matters, so... He opened the box, revealing a simple silver band with a small diamond. Will you marry me? For real this time? Elena dropped to her knees so she was level with him. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Daniel slipped the ring on her finger. It wasn't as expensive as the jewelry she'd once owned, but it was real. It was chosen with love. It was perfect. They kissed there in the empty gallery, surrounded by light and possibility and hope. The wedding happened 6 months later, in the same park where Elena had first handed Lily that silver box. It was small, just close friends, neighbors, Lily's teachers, and a few colleagues. No corporate executives, no society pages, no Sterling family representatives. Elena wore a simple white dress she'd bought off the rack. Daniel wore a suit he'd rented. Lily was the flower girl, wearing a princess dress and carrying Princess Celestia as her special escort. The ceremony was performed by a judge who'd worked on their custody case and had become a friend. When it came time for the vows, Daniel spoke first. Elena, 6 months ago, you handed my daughter a gift in this park. But the real gift was you. You taught me that it's okay to hope again. That opening your heart doesn't mean betraying the past. It means honoring it by choosing to live fully in the present. You taught Lily that family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up, who stay, who fight. I love you. And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing up for you, the way you've shown up for us. Elena's turn. She looked at Daniel, then at Lily, then at the small crowd of people who'd become their chosen family. I spent 32 years thinking I knew what my life was supposed to look like. Big house, important job, expensive things, and I was miserable. Then I met you, Daniel, and you, Lily, and you showed me what life could actually be. Messy, complicated, real. You taught me that love isn't about control or perfection. It's about showing up even when you're scared. It's about choosing each other every single day. It's about building something true even if it's not easy. I love you both more than I knew it was possible to love anyone, and I promise to spend the rest of my life earning the trust I broke and honoring the second chance you've given me. There wasn't a dry eye in the park. When the judge pronounced them married, Lily cheered so loudly that nearby birds took flight. Daniel kissed Elena while their daughter danced around them with Princess Celestia, and for a moment, everything in the world was exactly as it should be. 1 year later, Elena sat in the renovated warehouse, now officially Carter and Sterling Gallery, working on the books for their third art exhibition. The business was thriving. They'd expanded to include a community art program for underprivileged kids. They'd hired 2 employees. They'd even started paying themselves actual salaries. Upstairs, Daniel was giving Lily a bath after a particularly messy afternoon of painting in the studio. Elena could hear them laughing, hear Lily telling some elaborate story about her art teacher. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She almost deleted it. Then she saw the preview. Elena, this is your mother. Elena hesitated, then opened it. Your father had a stroke last week. He's recovering, but it's made us think about things. About family. About regrets. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know we don't deserve that. But if you're willing, I'd like to meet my granddaughter. No strings, no expectations. Just a chance to know her. Victoria. Elena stared at the message for a long time. Then she heard footsteps on the stairs. Daniel appeared, holding Lily's hand. His daughter, their daughter, was in pajamas, hair wet and smelling like strawberry shampoo. What's wrong? Daniel asked, reading her expression. Elena showed him the message. He read it, then looked at her carefully. What do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to delete it and pretend I never saw it. Part of me thinks, what if they've changed? What if they actually mean it? And part of you is scared they'll hurt you again. Daniel finished gently. Yes, Lily tugged Elena's hand. Who's that from? Elena knelt down. It's from my mother. Your grandmother, she wants to meet you. Lily's eyes went wide. I have a grandmother? You do, but it's complicated. She and I, we had a fight, a big one. She wasn't very nice to me or to your daddy, but she wants to meet me now? She says she does. Lily thought about this seriously. Do you want me to meet her? I don't know, sweetheart. What do you think? Well, Lily said slowly, Daddy says that Princess Celestia teaches people to be brave even when they're scared, and to give people second chances. You gave us a second chance when you came back, remember? Maybe we should give your mommy a second chance too. Elena looked at Daniel over Lily's head. He smiled slightly and shrugged. Out of the mouths of babes. You don't have to decide now, Daniel said. Sleep on it. And whatever you decide, we're with you. All three of us. Elena pulled them both into a hug. How did I get so lucky? You fought for us, Lily said simply. So we fight for you too. That's how families work. That night after Lily was asleep, Elena responded to Victoria's message. One meeting, neutral location. Lily and Daniel will be there. If you try to manipulate or control or hurt any of us, it's the last time you'll hear from me. If you're truly interested in knowing your granddaughter, just knowing her, not using her, then we can talk. The response came within minutes. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. I'll be there. Whether Victoria had truly changed remained to be seen, but Elena realized something important. She wasn't the same person who'd run away from conflict a year ago. She'd faced her parents' worst attacks and survived. She'd fought for her family and won. She'd built a life she loved from scratch. Whatever happened with Victoria, Elena could handle it. Because she wasn't alone anymore. She had Daniel, she had Lily. She had a chosen family that would stand with her no matter what. She had everything that mattered. 3 months later, on a Sunday afternoon, Daniel and Elena and Lily were at their favorite park, the same park where it had all begun. Lily was on the swings, Elena pushing her, Daniel watching from a nearby bench. Higher, Elena, higher! Any higher and you'll fly away. That's the point. Daniel watched them and felt a contentness so deep it almost hurt. He thought about Sarah sometimes, wondered what she'd think of Elena. He liked to believe she'd approve, that she'd be happy he'd found someone who made him laugh again, who loved their daughter like she was her own. You're thinking about her, aren't you? Elena had appeared beside him, Lily having run off to play with some other kids. How did you know? You get this look, peaceful but sad. I was thinking she'd like you, that she'd be glad Lily has you. Elena took his hand. I hope so. I think about her sometimes too, about how brave she must have been, how much she must have loved you both. I wish I could have known her. She would have liked you. She had a thing for people who pretended to be tougher than they actually were. I don't pretend. Elena stopped at Daniel's expression. Okay, maybe I pretend a little. A little? Fine. A lot. But only because being vulnerable is terrifying. I know. But you're good at it now. The vulnerability thing. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. I learned from the best. Lily came running back, out of breath and glowing. Daddy! Elena! There's a family over there with a new puppy and they said we could pet it. Come on! She grabbed both their hands and pulled. Daniel and Elena let themselves be dragged across the park to where a couple stood with a golden retriever puppy that was all paws and enthusiasm. Isn't he perfect? Lily breathed, gently petting the dog's head. He's pretty perfect, Elena agreed. Can we get a puppy? Lily asked hopefully. Absolutely not, Daniel and Elena said in unison, then looked at each other and laughed. Maybe when you're older, Daniel added. That's what you said about getting a cat. And I meant it. But Elena said we'll talk about it, Elena interrupted. Much later, like when you're 12. Lily sighed dramatically but accepted defeat. They thanked the couple and started walking back across the park. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and rose. I want to remember this, Lily announced suddenly. This exact moment, all of us together, the sunset, the park, everything. Why? Elena asked. Because I'm happy. Really happy. And Daddy says we should remember the happy moments for when things get hard. Daniel felt his throat tighten. His daughter had inherited his anxiety, his tendency to brace for disaster, but she'd also learned to appreciate joy when she found it. That was something. You're right, Elena said softly. Let's remember this. They stood there in the middle of the park as the sun set, the three of them together, holding on to the moment and each other. And for once, none of them were thinking about the past or worrying about the future. They were just there, present, together, home.